Next topic is IAS 38, that is intangible assets. IAS 38, intangible assets. Many of the provisions are similar to your IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. Let's run through this first. So first, let me get your understanding first. What according to you is an intangible asset? What according to you is an intangible asset? You've learned in your PUC, no, what is intangible asset? Or I'll give you an example. You go and tell me whether it is intangible asset or not. Is goodwill an intangible asset? I'll call intangible asset as IA, okay? You just need to tell me yes or no. Is goodwill an intangible asset? Okay, they are saying yes. Somebody is saying intangible asset means that which cannot be seen, touched or felt. Okay, no problem. Okay, correct only, sir. Patent. Is patent an intangible asset? Yes or no? Okay, copyright, logo, all these are intangible assets, huh? Yes, you're saying, yes, they're all saying yes. All right. On what basis you're saying all these are intangible assets? Or maybe one moment, hang on. Is software an intangible assets according to you? A software, a GST software or any other computer software as such. Okay, ERP, Tally, like a SAP, Oracle, all these are computer software. Sir, is this an intangible asset? Yes, sir. Somebody said here intangible asset means something that can't be seen, touched or felt to. But as per as my understanding goes, or as per as my knowledge goes, sir, software generally you will get it on a CD or a pen drive, correct? Normally, software will come in a CD or pen drive. Can you see the CD? Is it visible? I don't know, my eyesight is good, I'm able to see. Can you also see here? If I put in a software in a CD, can you see it? Yes. That means the software can be seen. But just now, I think Pratik, it was yes, he told something it can't be seen or touched or felt to. But you are able to see here. That means, is the software still an intangible asset? Somebody is saying intangible asset should not have a physical substance. That is what I am arguing with you on this. The software has a physical substance. Why? Because it came in a CD. Correct, no? Or in a pen drive. Correct, no? These days, things are fancy now. You don't get things in a CD. You get it in probably a pen drive as such. Correct? So software, etc., is coming in a pen drive. Pen drive you can see, meaning it has physical substance. That means, is it still intangible asset? That means what they thought in our first PUC and all, is it wrong? Because first PUC, that's what they thought, no. Should not be able to see, touch you, feel you. That only intangible asset too. But clearly I am able to see CD, pen drive and all. That means what they've learned is wrong. Or what they thought is wrong. Yes, any thoughts from your end about this? Or stumped? Okay, no answer. I'm thinking you're wondering. No worries. Sir, you can't use your first PUC definition. IAS 36 or IAS 38 defines what is an intangible asset. So you can't use your touch or feel criteria and all now. There is a small criteria. If you want to call a component as an intangible asset, it should have three features. If you want to call a component as an intangible asset, it should have three features. One, it should be identifiable. Two, it should be a non-monetary asset. Three, without physical substance. It should have three features. What is that? It should be identifiable and it should be a non-monetary asset. Third one, it should not have physical substance. Actually, in India, there is one more feature. It should be held for use either in the production of goods, rendering service, administrative purpose or rental purpose. That IFRS is not using. IFRS has only three features. Since our exam is revolving around IFRS, I'm telling this. Some of you may have studied in your college Ind AS, okay, Indian version of IFRS. That's the reason I'm giving you a little extra shots. So don't argue with your faculty there that he's teaching extra, he's teaching wrong. There are some difference between Ind AS and IFRS that we call it as carve out. Okay, the difference is between IFRS and Ind AS. Just for your reference, I'm saying. All right. So don't argue. There could be some differences between IFRS and Ind AS. So IFRS is our exam, so we'll only concentrate on that. Three features: identifiable, non-monetary asset, without physical substance. I know you're wondering, so just now you told physical substance, you have written same again without physical substance. I'll come to that. That is the third feature, no? First, let's come to the first feature. What is the first feature? Identifiable. Sir, we say something is identifiable provided if you can buy and sell them separately. If you can buy and sell that separately, we say that asset is identifiable. Goodwill will fail this particular criteria. You have heard goodwill, no? Goodwill you used to say intangible asset, intangible asset. Sir, intangible asset ka IAS 38 ka provision. IAS 38 deals with intangible asset, no? For goodwill, you will not apply IAS 38. Goodwill you will get in as per business combination. IFRS 3, goodwill is recorded as intangible asset, but as per IFRS 3, not as per IAS 38. This is one statement I'm making. Did the statement go, or it came in and went off like that? Went off like that, I think. Let me repeat that once. So first feature of intangible asset is identifiable. You can say something is identifiable if you can buy it or sell it separately, or it arises due to contract or a law. Enough. Generally, if you remember goodwill and all. Suppose now you are attending our class, One day you came in full josh. You came to ArivuPro ka owner and told, how much for the company? I got bugged of sitting and attending the classes. I want to buy your company. So you directly made an offer. Okay. You're asking how much for the company. ArivuPro ka owner told, give us $100,000 and the company is yours. Enough. That's what he told. Give us $100,000 and the company is yours. But, sir, when you buy ArivuPro or when you buy anyone's business, that business if you decide to buy it, now ArivuPro all assets and liability will belong to you, because you purchased its business. Correct? That only we call it as net assets, sir. Net asset is nothing but assets minus liabilities. Whatever assets you have, from that if you deduct the liability, that residual number only we call it as net assets. Let us say ArivuPro has an asset of 80,000. It has a liability of 10,000. It has an assets like this iPad, camera, TV, projectors, like this furnitures. We have various assets. All the assets put together, the value is how much? $80,000. And we have to pay a few guys. Let's say we have to pay rent to the landlord, or we have to pay some creditors worth $10,000. So asset is this much, liability is this much. Asset minus liability you do. How much are you getting? $70,000. That asset minus liability only we call it as net assets. Is it okay? Now compare, sir. Sir, net asset means net worth of the business, no? Correct? Any business ka worth is its assets. We have an asset of 80,000. We have a liability of 10,000. That means our net asset is worth only how much, sir? 70,000. Ideally, our business is worth only how much? $70,000. But we are asking how much from you guys? We are asking $100,000. We told if you pay $100,000, then only we will sell our company. Otherwise, we will not sell. But you told asset is only worth 70,000. We told nothing doing. If you want to buy our company, asset may be 70,000 or it could be 80,000. Doesn't matter. If you pay us 1 lakh rupees, then only we will give you the business. So that means you have to pay us $1 lakh to buy out our company. But we know that asset worth is only 70. No, that means are you paying any extra here? For 70,000 worth of business, you are paying 1 lakh. That means are you paying any extra? Yes. How much extra are you paying? $30,000. That only we call it as goodwill. This goodwill arises as per IFRS, sir. IFRS 3 business combination, meaning you purchase somebody else's business, no? When you get control in somebody else's business, you have to apply IFRS 3 business combination. We'll study more about all this when we do consolidation. Maybe some part of it you might have learned it in your F3. No problem, we'll cover it in detail as well. This is okay now? So when you buy any business, if you pay any extra amount, that extra amount you call it as goodwill. Can you tell this 30,000 is for goodwill? Now you purchase, let's say like I'm able to see Abhirami there. Okay, let's say Abhirami purchased ArivuPro. I don't know, Abhirami is a male or a female, so excuse me if I am just pronouncing that incorrectly. So alright, Mr. or Mrs. Abhirami, he or she has paid $30,000 extra, correct? That only he or she will book it as goodwill. Now, can Mr. or Mrs. Abhirami sell this goodwill to somebody else for $30,000? Can he or she sell this 30,000 to somebody, 30,000 alone to somebody else? Can you answer me this question, guys? Can you answer me this question? Can Abhirami sell this $30,000 of goodwill separately to somebody else? Now, if she has land or if she or she has a land, can you sell land separately? Yes. If you have a patent, can you sell it separately? Yes. If you have an iPad, can you sell it separately? Yes. But can you sell a goodwill, sir? No. If you want to sell the goodwill, you have to sell the whole business. Correct? No. So can you sell the goodwill, or can you purchase goodwill, or sell goodwill separately? Not possible. Hence we say goodwill is not an identifiable asset. So Ind AS 38 ka, or IAS 38 ka provision you should not apply for goodwill. Fair enough. You apply, or you goodwill you show as per IFRS 3. You will show it as intangible asset only, but you will not apply IAS 38 ka provision for goodwill, because IFRS 3 will talk about how to account that goodwill, what we should do for that goodwill. Did you understand this clarity now? Matlab, did you get this pointer first? The main pointer here, main mudda here is just this. For goodwill, don't apply IAS 38 intangible asset ka funda, apply IFRS 3 ka provision, which we will cover it later, not now. Because it is not identifiable, meaning it cannot be purchased or sold separately. Okay? Or another features of identifiable is it arises due to contract or law. Due to contract or a particular law, if it is arising, then we say it is identifiable. This is the first feature. Any doubt in the first feature, sir? If you want to call it as intangible asset, 3 features should be satisfied. Identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. First portion, identifiable, I've covered. You have any doubt, or can I proceed to the next one? Okay, I'm thinking you've got it. I'll move on to the next. Second feature is non-monetary asset. Monetary asset means those assets whose value is fixed, sir. Meaning expressed, or you can express that asset in fixed denomination of currency. Meaning, let us say you have 500 rupees ka Gandhi note with you now. I don't know whether you have it or not. Let's assume you have 500 rupees ka Gandhi note with you. What by now it's probably what, sir? It is 5:30. At 7:30 IPL starting time, what is its value? That 500 rupees ka Gandhi note, will it put a murray and it will become 2000 rupees Gandhi note? That 500 will become 2000, or it will still stay 500 only? Still it is 500 only, correct? Tomorrow, what will be the value of that 500 rupees ka Gandhi note, sir? Still 500 only. That means is the value change or it is fixed? Is the value fluctuating? Is it fixed, sir? That 500 rupees ka Gandhi note, it is fixed, correct? No. That we call it as monetary asset. Those assets whose value is fixed, we call it as monetary assets. Like, if you want examples of monetary assets, or I'll give you examples, you tell me. Cash. Monetary item means I'll write MI. I'll give you an example. MI, NMI. MI here is not Mission Impossible. Okay, MI here is monetary asset. You have to tell me, monetary asset means whose value is fixed. Non-monetary asset means value fluctuates. That's all is a distinction. Okay. Now cash, sir. Cash ka value is fixed or it keeps on fluctuating. Cash is example of what? Is it MI or MI? NMI. So it is a monetary asset. Perfect. How about debtors, sir? Debtors. Let's say you have to receive $1 lakh from your debtors. $100,000 you need to recover from your debtors. Is it a monetary item or non-monetary item? You sold goods to debtors for $100,000, so he has to pay you $100,000. If you have sold the goods for $100,000, he will pay how much? $100,000 only. No, that means what? Value is fixed. That means it is also like a monetary item. So no, sir, if there is a delay, we will collect interest. Sir, interest, is it your interest received from debtors? Is it a balance sheet item or will you transfer it to SPL? Interest received from debtors is an income. That will be transferred to SPL. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the worth of the goods. Fair enough. You sold goods worth 1 lakh. So 1 lakh is your debtor. So debtor will pay you how much? 1 lakh towards the goods. So hence debtor is a monetary item. Is this okay? Clear? Alright, let's see. You have to pay creditors $50,000. Creditors is a monetary item or non-monetary item? MI or NMI? MI, NMI. MI. Awesome. Why? You have purchased the goods worth $50,000. So you have to pay your creditors $50,000 only. So value is fixed. So monetary item. Property, plant and equipment, $100,000. Let's say you have a building. So it is used for business purpose. Let's say the value of the building is $100,000. Now tell me whether it is monetary item or non-monetary item. It is perfect. A non-monetary item. Why? Sir, today you purchase the building for $100,000. Tomorrow also its value will be $100,000 only. Yeah? No, its value may increase or its value may reduce. Meaning value fluctuates. Those assets whose value fluctuates only we call it as non-monetary items. So it is not MI. I think Abhirami said MI. It is not MI. It is non-monetary asset. Now is it clear? Awesome. Now you have a patent which you purchased by paying $10,000. You purchased a patent from somebody, okay, by paying $10,000. Now you tell me, sir, is this a monetary item or non-monetary item? Today you purchased it by paying $10,000. Will the value be same? No, after 1 year, its value may increase or it may reduce, meaning value fluctuates. So it is a non-monetary item. This is what is a feature of intangible asset. Intangible asset means its value should fluctuate, meaning it should be a non-monetary item. I think by now, monetary and non-monetary have got the distinction. Why did I spend time? There is one more standard which will talk about monetary and non-monetary item. So I thought I'll spend time now only, so that you'll have that, like, it'll be easy for you as such. Okay, that is the second features. Non-monetary asset, meaning value is not fixed. Second feature, is it okay with you? We are done for. Can I get to the third feature? Third feature is without physical substance. Though the feature here says without physical substance, don't literally interpret this, sir. What do they mean here is, now going back to this particular example, you purchased the software and that software came in a CD. Let us say for that software, you paid $100,000. You paid $100,000 for the software. Is it okay? That software came in a pen drive. Pen drive cost will be how much, sir? Maximum maybe $10. Or that also is high, maybe $5 possible. Yes, no. 400, 500 rupees and all will get off pen drive. Yes. Correct. Sir, though the feature says without physical substance, what do they mean by this is the value of the physical substance is immaterial. That is what they mean by without physical substance. Without physical substance does not mean physical substance should not be there at all. That is not what they're trying to say here. What they mean here is the value of the physical substance, which in my example pen drive, is very, very immaterial. Check. You paid $100,000. For software, did you pay $100,000 or for pen drive did you pay $100,000? You're paying the money $100,000 for what? For software or for pen drive? You're paying it for the software. Hence, the value of that pen drive or the physical element is very immaterial. That is what they mean by without physical substance. Got it? Is this better now? Or you got this funda now? Everybody. Awesome. So don't literally interpret this as no physical substance. Okay? There will be physical substance, meaning when you go and register a patent, sir, when you go and register a patent, they will give you what, sir? They will write it on a piece of paper saying this particular patent belongs to so and so. Yes. So what? So that patent also will be in a piece of paper only, but that piece of paper has no value. The contents inside that paper has a value. That is what we are treating it as non-monetary item, or we are treating that as intangible asset. Got it? So there will be some physical substance, but the value of that physical substance is very immaterial. Done? Alright, so can I go for the next feature? This is your definition. So only those components which has these three features, that only we can call it as intangible asset. Identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. Second one. Okay, that is your definition. If you want to show intangible asset in balance sheet, meaning if you want to recognize intangible asset in balance sheet, then there is two recognition criteria, sir. This recognition criteria is same as IAS 16. What is IAS 16 recognition criteria? It is probable that future economic benefits will flow to the entity and the cost of the asset should be measured reliably. So same as IAS 16. FEB and cost measurement. FEB here means future economic benefit. Got it? And initially, this is also same as IAS 16. Initially, when you purchase an intangible asset, it will be recognized at cost. This is same as IAS 16. I don't see any difference with you. Can I consider this is done and move on to the next? Or any question you have for me in this sector? Somebody is saying, when would IAS 38 be applicable for goodwill? For goodwill, you can't apply IAS 38 at all, sir. For goodwill, you have to apply IFRS 3, business combination only. Alright? You can't apply IAS 38. Have I answered your question, sir? Prateek? Think yes. Yes. Alright. So initially, intangible assets will be recognized at cost. Subsequent mein either you can follow cost model or revaluation model, same like IAS 16. No change here. Subsequent recognition at cost or revaluation model. But, sir, what does revaluation model mean? If you are following revaluation model means you are showing the asset at fair value. But generally, most of the intangible assets don't have active market to find out the fair value since they are not traded. Sir, you have a let's say like a cell phone now. Is cell phone a tangible asset or intangible asset? It is a tangible asset, yes. Can you find out the fair value of that mobile phone, cell phone? Easily, because you have 101 platforms, no? You can exchange the phone on Amazon, Flipkart, or you have OLX. Like this, you have many platforms, or you can go to the retail shop and sell it. So that means you have an active market where using which you can find out the fair value of that cell phone. Yes. For a tangible asset, generally most of the tangible assets have active market, meaning the place where these assets are sold often. But for intangible asset, for most intangible asset, not for everything, for most intangible assets, no, you will not have active market to find out the fair value. And if you cannot find out the fair value, can you apply revaluation model? Revaluation model means what? To show the asset at fair value. If you cannot find out the fair value, then you cannot apply revaluation model. Hence, most of the intangible assets will be valued using cost model only. Majority of them will be valued using cost model. There could be some intangible assets. Like, now if you just check, if you want to run a brewery or if you want to run an MRP outlet, alcohol shop, you need to have a license, correct? No. Now the license for that does have a huge value and it has an active market. There are thousands of people. If you have a liquor license, easily you can sell it because there is an active market. So for that liquor license, if you want to apply revaluation model, you can do it so because there is an active market. But suppose you purchased a patent and that patent is unique. People have not heard about it. So there may not be a market value for it or there may not be an active market for it. So finding out the fair value becomes a difficulty. So in that case, you may have to follow cost model. If you are able to find out the fair value of that intangible asset, you are free to apply revaluation model. If you cannot find out the fair value, then apply cost model. Since for majority of the intangible assets don't have active market, majority of the intangible assets will be valued using the cost model itself. This is the third section. But accounting of cost model and revaluation model, all this is same as IAS 16, no change. Whatever we did in property, plant and equipment, no, same thing you will apply for intangible asset also, no change. Can I get to the next section? Yes, they're saying. Awesome. All right. Let me get to the other one. Okay, last one. Maybe I'll finish off this. Then we'll take a break and then we will apply that with the questions. Okay, this would be maybe better. Internally generated intangible assets. Or 1 minute, let me go back, sir. Let me give you an interesting example. So what is the recognition criteria for intangible assets? FEB and cost measurement. Yes, no? Cost measurement is not so easy for intangible asset. Measuring the cost is not so easy for intangible asset. Why am I saying that? Let me give you a small example. IPL season, people are talking a lot about cricket. Don't know. They're talking about they're watching cricket maybe for Dream 11, betting, eating and all. Could be a possibility. Yes, no. Either ways, cricket is the happening thing these days. Let us say our great King Kohli, Virat Kohli. He told, anyway, we are in bio bubble. We have a lot of time. We can't travel. Yes. So he thought, let me write a book. So Virat Kohli, sir, wrote a book. How to become a successful cricketer. He wrote a book. Nana. What he did is, he took a 100-page notebook, sir. Classmate ka or whatever ka. He paid, let's say this costed 200 rupees. I'll say it in rupees because dollar value will be too negligible. Okay. So he paid 200 rupees and purchased a 100-page notebook and started writing his experience as to how to become a successful cricketer. And he also took a pen, maybe Parker pen, where he spent another 300 rupees, let's assume. That means, what is the cost for Virat Kohli to write this book? Totally, how much did he spend? For book, he spent 200 rupees. For pen, he spent 300 rupees. That means totally he spent how much, sir? 500 rupees. Okay. Let us say he spent 2 months to write this book. To write this book, he spent 2 months. And he is saying, if I had used the same 2 months to do advertisements or to play cricket, if I had maybe gone to England or if I had done an advertisement for these 2 months, I would have earned minimum 10 crore rupees. He's saying minimum 10 crore. Bindas, I would have earned 10 crore rupees. Now, question to you is, sir. Sir, he wrote a book. That means he has a copyright over that book. First question to you is this an intangible asset? For Virat Kohli, Is this an IA as an intangible asset? First question you need to answer. Is it an intangible asset? He wrote a book and he has published these books. And fair enough. I'll give you one more information if you want. He took this book to a publication house. That publication house told, yeah, this is a very good book. I like the contents what you have written. This book will easily be sold. He says that publishing house told, easily we will earn 1 crore rupees. This book will be a bestseller. Aram se we can earn how much? 1 crore rupees. Now you tell me, sir. Is this an intangible asset? This information I've given you. Just watch over this information and tell me yes or a no for this intangible asset. This is where you should respond. Yes or no. Whatever it is, okay. Don't take break without telling me. I also want break. We'll take it together. Okay, respond first. Not getting it. Somebody saying no. Okay, no problem. Let's go over the definition. Intangible asset means what, sir? Identifiable. Can you identify this book, sir? Virat Kohli, he wrote the books. That means he has the right. Can he sell the right to somebody else? Can he transfer this right to publication house? Can he tell, give me 50 lakh rupees and take the rights yourself? People do this, yes, no. Many of the movies that is getting released now. Chetan Bhagat's many movie got released. What did he do? He sold his copyright over the books to that producer, correct, no? And the producer used that right and he made a film. That means, can Virat Kohli sell this book? So it is, yes, he can, because you can buy it or sell it separately. So is it identifiable? Yes, very much yes. Because you can sell it separately, aram se. What is the second criteria of intangible asset, sir? Non-monetary asset. Will the value of the book be same? No, it keeps on fluctuating. Yes. So is it a non-monetary asset? Yes. Alright. Identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. Here, there is a physical substance here. What is a physical substance, sir? The physical substance is notebook. The value of the notebook is what? 200 rupees. Is it material or very negligible? It is immaterial. That means, does it satisfy intangible asset definition? Yes. Now, is it satisfy intangible asset definition? Yes. But in order to recognize intangible asset as asset in balance sheet, there are two recognition criteria. What are those? FEB and cost measurement. Is there any future economic benefits to Kohli here? Yes. The benefit is how much? 1 crore. Publishing people is saying 1 crore, aram se we can make a sale. So there is a FEB. But second criteria is what, sir? Cost measurement. Measuring the cost is problem here. Why? Because Virat Kohli spent only 500 rupees. Here, what Virat Kohli spent is not the money. He spent the time. How will you measure the time, sir? Measuring the time is a problem. So for internally generated intangible assets, no, measuring the cost is the biggest headache. Fair enough? It is not so easy. Here, measuring is a time cost. Time cost, you cannot measure it that accurately. Hence, considering that he only spent 500 rupees, this will not be recognized as an intangible asset. It will be transferred off to P&L, immaterial value. That is the reason. It could be intangible asset, but we'll write it off because the value is immaterial. Did you get the answer to this question? Did you get it? Why we are transferring this to P&L? Because measuring the time, that 2 months he spent, no, it's the time. Measuring the time cost, measuring is not easy. I know, because for Virat Kohli, if he had spent 2 months, no, he would have earned 10 crore rupees. Let me make it a little more interesting. Seeing Virat Kohli, no, I also got inspired. I also wrote. Hope you remember my name. I'll write it just in case you forgot. Sandesh, I also wrote a book. How to clear or how to get rank in ACCA exam. How to score a rank in ACCA exams. Alright, students are liking this book, sir. Okay, and I am more conjuice. I saw Virat Kohli bought notebook for 200 rupees. I spent only 100 rupees for the notebook. And I took only 10 rupees pen. In that signal, people sell no small, long pen. That I purchased by paying only 10 rupees. That means how much I spent? 110 rupees I spent. I also spent 2 months time to write this book. Now, can I say, for Virat Kohli, 2 months worth is 10 crore. So I will also show this intangible asset at 10 crore. Can I tell like that? For him, maybe if he spends 2 months time for doing advertisements, he may earn 10 crore rupees. But if I spend 2 months by doing ACCA coaching, now I do ACCA coaching for 2 months. I am asking 10 crore rupees from you. What is the first thing you will do now only? Log out of the meeting. Correct? No, this guy has become crazy. You log out. Correct? Literally. So that means, can I show this asset at 10 crore rupees? Not possible. Why? Measuring the time cost. For somebody, time cost is different. For somebody else, the time cost is different. So for internally generated intangible asset, no, measuring the cost, or generally for intangible assets, measuring the cost is not an easy exercise, and becomes all the more difficult when it is a self-generated intangible asset. Because I did not buy a book here. I'm writing a book. That means it is a self-created intangible asset. For such asset, measuring the cost will be a little problem. Fair enough? All right. Or somebody is saying, sir, that means internally generated intangible asset, you'll never show as intangible asset. No. There are certain criteria. You are Ashwin Krishna, you're 2 steps ahead of me. I'll come to that. All right. Why I gave you this example is, for internally generated intangible asset, measuring the cost is not that easy. Fair enough? There could be some problematic area. To just put that idea or notion into your mind, I just gave you this example. Fine. So now, can I get to the topic? Now the actual mudda. For internally generated intangible assets, if you have not purchased an intangible asset, but you have created self-generated intangible assets. If it is self-generated intangible assets, first you will categorize them as goodwill, brands, masthead. Masthead means logos. Customer list, publishing titles. Check, are you developing any of this? If it is internally generated goodwill or brands, mastheads, customer list or publishing title, it will not be recognized as intangible assets. Okay, meaning it will be transferred off to P&L. Because measuring the cost would be a problem here in such cases, because it will be purely a time cost. Fine. So measuring the time cost for individual person becomes a little difficult. Hence they've said there, clearly they've said, for these internally generated intangible assets, don't recognize them as intangible asset. So any money you have spent towards them, you transfer it to P&L. So this and all I understood. Brand, no. People spend a huge amount of money to create a brand, masthead, a logo, customer list. Customer list means what? Now, you're using WhatsApp and all this stuff, correct? So you must be knowing that recently, there are a lot of discussion going on. WhatsApp is given some private policy. You need to agree to their terms and conditions where they will use your personal data, correct? For advertisements and stuff, which many of us don't want to give. That's the reason they are shifting. Many people are shifting from WhatsApp to Signal, another app, correct? That is what is your customer list, sir. Customer list is what? Company collecting. Now Amazon and all is collecting a huge customer database. Yes, no? They are analyzing. They are using this customer list. They are analyzing your spending habits. Yes, that is what they're doing. If you just check IPL, there is a huge thing going on about cred now. Have you seen this? They're going on advertising about cred. Pay your credit card bill on the cred app. You will get 100% cash back. Like this, they are understanding. Sir, for paying credit card bill, why should they give you cash back? Credit card bill means I've spent some money on using a loan. Correct? Now I need to repay that. Why is a third party giving me the cash back? Have you ever thought about this? What is cred doing? And it is a $1.2 billion valuation company, okay? Recently, actually. In fact, they are not earning anything. They are giving you the money, but still their valuation is high. Why? Sir, if you want cash back, you need to you have to upload your credit card bill. Using your credit card bill, they will analyze your purchase spending pattern. They will clearly know for what money purpose you are spending the money. Today, you are purchasing this much on Amazon. You purchase that on Flipkart. Like this, they are able to analyze. So they will sell that data to the Flipkart and Amazon saying, this guy is interested in this product. Advertise that product to him, he'll buy it. That is their revenue model. Okay. That is what? Customer list. They're collecting customer data. So if you are spending any money collecting customer list, that is internally generated intangible assets. They are saying, don't recognize it as intangible asset, transfer it off to P&L. And purchased goodwill. One moment, hang on. Internally generated goodwill. Internally generated goodwill means what, sir? You remember in your PUC and all, you used to do something. Alright, internally generated goodwill means what? First PUC and all, if you remember, you used to use average cost method, weighted average cost method. Like this, you used to use many methods and find out the goodwill. Yes, no? That we call it as internally generated goodwill. Such goodwill cannot be shown in the books, but will be transferred. It cannot be shown as intangible asset, but should be transferred off to P&L. That's what we mean by internally generated goodwill. Average profits method, super profits method, that wala funda. Okay. So these things, if you have, you'll be transferred off to P&L. But if you have purchased goodwill, remember I gave this example wherein you purchased ArivuPro Academy. I think Abhirami is it. I think she purchased. She purchased by paying how much? $100,000. But what was the worth of ArivuPro? Only $70,000. That means he or she paid how much extra? $30,000. That means that extra only we're calling it as what? Goodwill, right? This is nothing but purchased goodwill. Because Abhirami purchased ArivuPro ka business here. When she purchased the business, he or she got goodwill. Such a goodwill we refer to as purchased goodwill. And purchased goodwill is recognized. I already told you. This should be recognized as per IFRS 3. That is what I've written here. Purchased goodwill is recognized as intangible asset as per IFRS 3 ka provision. You don't apply IAS 38. You apply IFRS 3 ka provision as such. Fair enough. Alright. Okay. This is about your goodwill. Any doubt in this particular funda, guys? This particular thing, whatever we've learned, any confusion is there for you in this particular section? Internally generated intangible assets, this particular section. Any doubt, anybody? Nope. I'll move on. Okay. If it is an internally generated intangible asset, but it is not any of these, it is others. Then you need to classify the expenditure as research phase expenditure and development phase expenditure. If it is not goodwill, brand, mastheads or anything, it is something else, means internally generated intangible assets are broadly again classified into two things: research phase and development phase. This is very important for as far as IAS 38 is concerned. No, this topic is very important. You can expect questions from this particular component in your examination if at all it is coming. Okay. So if at all, first check whether it is a research phase expenditure or a development phase expenditure. To give you an example. Now COVID scene, correct? No. Many companies are trying to develop the COVID vaccine. Many companies are doing the research. Sir, just like that, can they do the research? To do the research, you need to spend the money, correct? No. You need to hire scientists, you need to have chemicals, you need to have machineries. Like this, you need to have various assets. Yes, using that only you can do the research, correct? Fine. So let us say there is one company, X Limited. They have spent $100,000 for research expenditure. They're doing a research on COVID vaccine. And they spent $100,000. Now you tell me, sir, can this company recognize this research expenditure as an intangible asset? According to you, the money which this has spent by X Limited for $100,000, can they recognize this as an intangible asset according to you? Can you give me an answer for this? Yes or a no? Yes or a no? Right or wrong answer, we'll see later. Give me a response. Let me see how well your understanding is. Yes or a no? Alright, let's look at this, go further maybe. Somebody is saying no. Alright, fine, we'll see, sir. Why no or why yes, we will see. Sir, this company is doing a research, correct? So whenever you're doing a research could be successful or research could be a failure. So if you remember, there was one criteria for intangible asset. What are the two recognition criteria for intangible assets? There must be some future economic benefits, and cost of the intangible asset you should be able to measure it reliably. X Limited is able to measure the cost. How much is the cost? $100,000. But can they prove that this intangible asset will give them future economic benefits? Can they prove that? Can they prove this X Limited will give them future economic benefits? No. So if you cannot prove there is a future economic benefits, then research phase expenditure, should you recognize it as an intangible asset? No. Research phase expenditure should be transferred to P&L. Why? Because you cannot demonstrate that due to the research expenditure, you will get an intangible asset which will give you future economic benefits. You cannot prove that at research phase. That is the reason research phase expenditure always gets transferred to SPL. This is the funda. This they are asking a lot, sir. Fine. Again, this is very important section. Any doubt in this particular section, anybody? Simply what I said. At research phase expenditure should go to P&L or SPL. Why? Because at research phase, you cannot prove that intangible asset exists and it will give you some benefits. You cannot prove that. Hence, it goes off to SPL. That is what I've written here. Research phase expenditure. Research generally you do why? To gain some knowledge. Since at research phase you cannot prove the existence of intangible assets in Feb, research phase expenditure is not recognized as intangible asset, but research phase expenditure is transferred to SPL. Fine. Alright, this is the funda here. Now, sir, after research, you do research here. After research, if the research is successful, then what do you do, sir? What is the next phase? If research is successful, then what do you do next? If suppose X Limited did a research was successful, then what they'll do? They will start developing the product. Yes or no? That means they will do development phase. So first is your research phase, second is your development phase. When will you get into development phase? When the research is successful. Yes or no? So development phase expenditure, you can recognize it as intangible asset. You can show it as intangible asset, provided 6 conditions are satisfied. That I'm calling it as TRFRC. If TRFRC is satisfied, if all of them are satisfied, then you can recognize a development phase expenditure as intangible asset. So what is this TRFRC? I've written it here. T stands for technical feasibility. One, sir, to develop, let's take this example only. Your research was successful, but in order to develop this COVID vaccine, you need to have what, sir? Huge technical expertise, no? Correct? You need to have the scientists, etc., and you need continuous support of these people. Check whether you have that technical feasibility to produce or to develop that intangible asset. First, you check that. That is your T. T stands for technical feasibility. Whether you have that technical expertise with you. That is the first criteria, right? Second is I. I stands for intention to complete. See, everybody will do the research. If the research is successful also, to develop the product, it's a huge process, sir. Even development phase, if you just check, to develop the vaccines and all, like we have more than 100 crore population as such. Yes. So to develop the vaccine for such a huge people, it is not an easy job. Research phase, maybe companies started because they liked it, but they feel they don't have that much capacity to develop vaccine for all of them. So hence, check if the company has intention to complete the product, because Josh may people start off, but then they will drop out midway. Check if that is the case. Enough. The company should have an intention to complete this product, because even development phase can last for 3 to 4 years, sometimes maybe more. So check whether you have the intention to complete the product. That is your I. TRFRC I told. T is your technical feasibility. I is your intention to complete. A is for ability to use. Okay, you develop the product. After developing the product, what you should do, sir? You should be in a position to sell the product, no? So developing the product is one thing. Selling the product is another ball game. You require another skill for it. Yes. Check whether you have that ability to use the product or sell the product. Okay, that is your A. TR over F. F for future economic benefits. Due to that development expenditure, you should be able to tell how much future economic benefits will come to the entity. You should be able to measure that. That is your F. R is for technical, financial and other resources. So to develop the product, you require machinery, resources help, like financial resources, technical resources and all. Check whether all those resources are available with you. That is your R. Last is your cost measurement. That makes up your TRFRC. Development, I'll repeat that. Development phase expenditure can be recognized as intangible asset, provided TRFRC is satisfied. T for technical feasibility, technical resources is there. I for intention to complete. A for ability to use or sell the product. F for future economic benefits. Because of this, how much benefit will come to the entity. R for financial, technical and other resources available or not, you need to check. Last one is C. C for cost measurement. If all should be satisfied up. If all these conditions are satisfied, then you will recognize the development phase expenditure as intangible asset. Otherwise, even if one of the criteria fails, then this expenditure, development phase expenditure, will be transferred to SPL. Any doubt in development phase expenditure? Anybody? Any doubt in development phase expenditure? Anyone? Or okay? Got it. Others also respond so that I know that you are on the same page. Yes, awesome. So this is your internally generated intangible asset. I think somebody asked, I think Ashwin it was. Sir, will internally generated intangible assets cannot be classified as intangible asset only? See that. I think now your Ashwin, your answer must be answered now. Yes, no? You must have got it now. Only goodwill and these things will not be recognized. And research phase expenditure will not be recognized. Development phase expenditure can be recognized. Meaning if you are developing any patent or if you are developing any software, you can recognize it as intangible asset provided TIA FRC conditions is satisfied. That is your condition here. Alright. Last one is amortization. On tangible assets, you calculate depreciation. On intangible asset, you calculate what? Amortization. Yes, no. Same as IAS 16 ka principle, so no change. When did you start depreciation as per IAS 16? From the date asset is available for use. Even amortization will start from the date intangible asset is available for use, not put to use. From the day intangible asset is available for use, from that day onwards, you will start amortizing it. To calculate depreciation, you require two features, sir. What is that? DA should be positive, useful life should be limited. Yes, no. Same two characteristics holds good for amortization of intangible asset also. If you want to calculate amortization of intangible asset, DA, depreciable amount. How do you get depreciable amount? Carrying amount minus residual value. This number should be positive and it should have a limited useful life, meaning a known useful life, not or infinite useful life. Okay, that is what I've written here. Intangible asset should be amortized over the useful life of the intangible asset. If the useful life is 10 years, you will amortize it over 10 years. If the useful life is 5 years, you will amortize intangible asset over 5 years, provided DA is positive, which most cases depreciable amount will be positive because intangible assets does not have active market. So residual value for most intangible asset, residual value will be 0 for most of them generally. All right. Fair enough. Hence, DA for most of the intangible asset will be positive. So you will calculate amortization as such. That is your first two features. Amortization expense like depreciation will be transferred off to SPL. If you have any intangible asset with indefinite useful life, meaning unlimited useful life. If any intangible asset has unlimited useful life, then it will not be amortized, but it will be tested for impairment. Impairment we will cover in IAS 36. Okay. IAS 36, maybe tomorrow we will cover it. That talks about impairment. We will see that later. If any intangible asset has unlimited useful life. Can I give you an example of unlimited useful life? Sir, somebody is saying land. Land is not an intangible asset. No, I'm giving you an example of intangible asset with unlimited useful life. Intangible asset. Sir, have you heard about this Indigo Airlines? Indigo Airlines or Air India Airlines. Have you heard of? Normally they are airline industries, correct? No? They operate airlines. Sir, where do they park their aircrafts? In front of your house, my house, they can park their aircrafts. Huh? On your terrace, it is free. Can they come and park their aircraft on your 30-40 square foot ka land? On your building, can they park? No, they have to park this where? If they are not using it, they will park or they will park this aircraft in airport, correct? Bombay airport, Bangalore airport, Delhi airport, like this they will park their aircraft. Yes. Suppose I own a bike, I own a car. Can I park my car in airport, sir? Inside my aircraft, inside the airport, in a runway. I said, I want to park my car. Will they give me permission? Can any left, right, any Tom, Dick and Harry park their vehicle inside the airport? Inside the airport, I'm not talking about designated parking space. Inside the airport, can anybody, you and I park? No. If you want to park or utilize this airport wala space, you need to have something known as landing rights. If Indigo Airlines wants to park their airlines inside the airport, they have to the government will give something known as landing rights. Fair enough? Where they will collect some money from this Indigo Airlines and they will issue landing rights. Now, this landing rights is an identifiable or intangible asset. It satisfies the features of intangible assets. Fair enough? Sir, for how long do you think Indigo Airlines will get the landing rights from the company, from the government? Only for 1 year, 2 years, or forever? They are an airline business, sir. That means they have to use the airport to park their aircrafts. Yes, no? That means this landing rights, they should have it every year. Yes, no? Initially, let's say landing right was given for 10 years and the government told, after 10 years, I'll go on renewing this landing rights. Every year you pay me renewal fees and go on renewing this landing rights. Now you tell me, sir, what is the useful life of this intangible asset? Is it limited or unlimited? You tell me, what is the useful life of this landing rights? Limited or unlimited? It was issued for 10 years initially and you have an option to go on renewing it. That means this intangible asset does not have limited useful life. It has unlimited useful life. And if any intangible asset has unlimited useful life, can you calculate amortization? To calculate depreciation or amortization, your useful life has to be limited, fixed. If your useful life is unlimited, you cannot calculate depreciation or you cannot calculate amortization. Fair enough? That is what they meant here. If any intangible assets has indefinite or unlimited useful life, then it is not amortized, but it is tested for impairment. Impairment, I'll tell you when I cover IAS 36, not for the time being. This is the funda about amortization as such. Alright, with this, all the concepts relating to IAS 38 we have covered. Questions we need to apply. Any doubt in any of these sections you guys have, guys? If you don't have doubt, we'll take a break and we'll come back. Sir, do patents also have indefinite useful life? Generally, patents and all will be issued for a few years, sir. 5 years, 10 years. So generally, no. Patents don't have indefinite useful life. They have limited useful life. Anything else? Alright, let's take a break and then we'll come back. Thank you.